So we're going to move on for time's sake, and I'm going to quickly go through the 4 S words that'll change your life. Then we're into the ladder of success, and then we'll wrap up and do some Q&A. But guys, these 4 words are words you must know and you must write down. And they all start with the letter S. And the easiest way to remember that is same as the Superman logo. Starts with the letter S as well. So without further ado, let's hit them all because we're talking about your state. That's number 1. Number 2 is your story. Number 3 is your standards. And folks, number 4 is your strategy. Your strategy. So to recap it, your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy are really all you need to think about all day long. And if you improve your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy, what do you think shows up in your bank account? What do you think shows up with your significant other? What do you think shows up with your children, your parents, your community? Guys, this is everything. So let's talk a little bit more about it. And we'll go through more detail, but think about state as how you show up in your mind, how you show up in your body, where you place your focus, and even the language that comes out of your mouth or that you think about in your head, right? And our state is going to dictate how we show up. So I'm going to share a little bit more on how I show up in a peak state in just a moment. Number 2 is your story. Guys, your story is really your identity. It's how you define yourself. Are you a victim to what's going on, or are you going to choose to be a victor on your way to victory, right? It's really any narrative you tell yourself why you can or can't have something. Does that make sense? Number 3 is your standards. That's how you show up each day. It's the level you commit to play at, and it's ensuring that you own your highest routines, habits, and rituals on a daily basis. Kind of like Rob's doing with his health right now. Super impressive for an old guy, right? But he's younger than he looks, and he's probably younger. He's probably fitter than 90% of the people on this call, to be honest. Let's give him some kudos. Number 4, folks, is your strategy. And I'm a business strategist. I'm not just a mindset coach. I'm also a high-performing business strategist. And that is, well, how are you approaching getting to your outcome? Do you have a roadmap or a blueprint? Are you putting in the work each day? And are you thinking like Dr. Benjamin Hardy's book with Dan Sullivan, Who, Not How? Anybody read the book, Who, Not How? Fabulous, fabulous read. If you haven't read it, pick it up. It's an easy read. And so, guys, those 4 words are really going to dictate how your results show up as well. And so let's really crank through this quickly. Your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy are the keys to success. And for me, when I need to get into a peak state and I've got to go to a real estate, meeting, or I've got to go raise capital, or I've got to get on stage, I do something called my triad. If you think about a triad, that means 3. I think of it in the form of a triangle where I got to own my physiology. That's how I'm showing up in my body. I got to focus on what I want, not what I don't want. And I've got to use empowering language. So if I really get my body fired up, I focus on what do I want to achieve? What's my outcome? What do I really want to feel like? And then I use empowering language or affirmations or incantations. I feel unstoppable and I can go through the wall. But what about you? Are you getting into a peak state before you make a decision, before you pick up the phone, before you get into the meeting? And if you're not, this is an invitation for you to do so. Your story, again, is your identity. It's who you believe you are. And let me ask you again, are you a victim to what's going on in the US right now? Or are you choosing to be a victor by setting your sail properly on your way to victory? It's almost no different than me asking you this. Is your glass half empty or is your glass half full? Well, you get to decide. But please understand that your identity is also driving your behavior. Number 3 is your standards, and it's really the level you commit to play at. That is, are you going to mail it in today or are you going to play full out? Are you going to go, oh, that was a good little speech by Coach T. Thank you, Rob, for bringing him in. Or are you going to apply this? Are you going to teach it to other people in your household? Because you're certainly welcome to share it. And I think we should define what a standard is, because a standard is a repeatable, harmonized, agreed and documented way of doing something consistently. Note the word consistently. right? So really check in with your standards. And then really strategy for me, guys, is very simple. It's having a recipe, a roadmap, a blueprint, or even a GPS that takes me from where I am to where I want to be. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to give you all simple 7 steps. I call it the 7 simple steps that I use for everything, whether it's my coaching, my consulting, my speaking, my real estate, the things that Lisa and I are doing in our publishing company. We do a lot of things, right? But here's what it is in 7 simple steps. Number 1, you got to know what you want. That is, what's the result or the outcome I'm driving for? Number 2, and people skip this step all the time. Why do you want it? What's the big, fat, compelling reason? Who will it impact? How will it make the world a better place? So if you can know what you want and why you want it, step 3 is the fun step. What are all the action steps I can take or you can take to get there? Right? Because there are a ton of different things that we could do, but all things that we could do aren't created equal. That's where step 4 comes in, where I got to prioritize it. That is, what's the first thing that gives me some momentum? What's the first call I've got to make? What's the first document I need to create, right? So if you know what you want, why you want it, what actions you can take, and you prioritize it, the last 3 steps are really simple, because step 5 is time stamping it. That's me going over to my calendar and, defining when I'm going to do it, or creating what I call a self-imposed deadline. And a lot of you should really take a look at, are you creating self-imposed deadlines and time stamping things in your calendar? Because I guarantee a lot of you need some work there. Step 6 is a fun one called leverage. That is, who can help you? Is it Trevor? Is it Rob? Is it somebody else on this call? Is it somebody at a meetup? Is it a mentor? Is it Chat GPT? Is it AI? Could be technology, right? And then, guys, you know what step 7 is? It is execution. Execution. None of this is important unless you go out there and you execute. And those, my friends, are really the 7 simple steps that I use to go from where I am to where I want to be. So to quickly recap, and then we'll do the final thing and then open it up. You've got to own your state, your story, your standards, and your strategy. And if you do, I'm telling you, you're going to start turning decades into days. It's not going to take 10 years to go out there and build your real estate empire. It might take a little bit of, blood, sweat, and tears. But as long as you're defiantly committed to your outcomes and you own these 4 things, I'm telling you, the ride will be much better and much sweeter.